Hi, friends, and happy International Women's Day. My name is Daphne, and I'm the Global Impact Director at One Day's Wages. I'm honored to be here today with Awah Francisca Mbuli. Francisca is the founder and executive director of our One Day's Wages partner Survivors Network, which is located in Cameroon's eastern region. The organization's mission is to fight human trafficking and modern day slavery across Africa. So, today, International Women's Day, is a day to celebrate women's achievements and also imagine a world that's free of discrimination where our differences are valued. So, Francisca, thank you so much for joining us. I have several questions so that our listeners can learn about your role as a woman leader and how you invest in other women. So, the first thing I'd like to ask is, how has your own personal story shaped you as a leader?
Thank you so much, Daphne. I'm so much excited and privileged to be here with you live. Actually, as a survivor of human trafficking, I was trafficked to a Middle Eastern country. And there, I was being promised an English teaching job. But unfortunately for me, on arriving there, I was being forced into domestic servitude. And during my serving as a domestic servant, I was sexually abused by my employers. Notwithstanding, I knew that I left home for a purpose to work hard and then help my family back home. I decided to succumb to the hardship, the abuse, but it was not easy. I was being used more or less than an animal. I will not go to bed. I have to work sometimes 18 to 20 hours a day because unfortunately for me, I arrived in that country when it was the time for the Ramadan, which the people will fast during the day and eat during the night. So I have to be there for them, clean the dishes, take care of the children, and do all sort of job alone as the only mate saving a family of five. It was not easy, I would say that. So one time in point, I got in touch with some ladies who were also trafficked from neighboring African countries and also Cameroon. And we keep communicating on a Facebook group. And one thing led to the other. One day I was just like, it was like a joke. One of them opted, who is there willing to escape and seek safety. I just opted, and to my greatest amaze, the lady came and then picked me up in a taxi, and then we drove to the Central African Republic embassy in that country because Cameroon does not have a resident embassy there. The embassy of Cameroon to Saudi Arabia governs most of the Gulf Cooperation Council countries. So that was when I met a bunch of ladies who were so diverse, those who have been there for longer term, and me just arriving. But notwithstanding, during my ordeal, I was not opportune to use my phone, but I use it in hiding. I started watching CNN Freedom Project, and I would get names of organizations during the advert for CNN Freedom Project, and I will write down. At my free time, I will write to them and explain myself. Hello, I'm a Cameroonian lady. I'm in pain. I'm suffering. I'm in slavery. Please help me. Save me. You save a nation and you will save the world at a time. And that's how that particular message went viral. And I was fortunate for an organization based in New York to reach out to me directly because all the people I send most often I will receive with an automatic email. But this was only one of the organizations that reached out to me directly. And from there, they followed me up until I was rescued. And I was rescued, not only being rescued to come back home safely, but I was one of those that were given my traveling documents to come back home with because many of us that were trafficked, our traveling documents were retained by our employers and were returned back home with alternative traveling documents called the laissez-passer. Coming back home, my own family deserted me. My own family stigmatized me and my community. They saw me as a failure. So to prove to them that I'm not a failure, I start by explaining my story to them. And then I was like, this is something that if my family is not aware of, I think my community also is not aware of. So that's how I started by creating awareness first to my family and then moving to my community bit by bit. to the local churches, to the palace or the chiefdom of the local ruler, to the marketplaces, the bus stops. And after, I thought it wise that we have returned home because my awareness campaign also touched the organization to return many of us that were still trapped there by paying their flights, while most often I was guiding them on how to escape. And when we came back, we looked at it that we can still be vulnerable to be trafficked. So I also went back to that organization, seek for funds, and we started creating empowerment opportunities, which in the aspect of rescuing at now, for women who live abroad in Kuwait, Lebanon, Bahrain, we've rescued about 68 women. And for those who have empowered, for those women that we return, we empowered, we paid the flight of 28 women, including myself. No, I'm sorry, we paid the flight of 68 women because recently during the Beirut bomb blast during the COVID-19 era, we also paid flight for women that were coming from Lebanon. So we have empowered a lot. If you want to look at those nationally and within sub-Saharan African countries, Survivors Network has empowered almost, I think we can be looking at almost 2,000 women directly, not mentioning those that have been affected indirectly by the support we have given to those women. So that's what we do. We run a safe home and many other activities that in due course during the interview, during a chat, we all will get to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisca, and thank you for having the courage to share your own story, even though it's challenging. It's incredible to hear how you've chosen to use your own experience to now support other women survivors. I appreciate you sharing that. You already shared some of the ways that you use your role as the leader of Survivors Network to uplift other women, like through your rescue activities and the safe home. Could you share in a little more detail some of those ways that you empower women who are survivors or at risk of trafficking?
Actually, we empower women in many ways. By rescuing them and reintegrating them into their communities, we look at this as giving them freedom. And when they have that freedom, what do we do next? We often look at their mental health state. We try at our best to provide them psychosocial first aid support because we believe that if you give a woman even 5,000 US dollars, when the mental state is not really okay, that money might not be put into good use. So we try, though the ordeal we have lived, we can never erase it, but we try to make sure that psychologically we are a little bit fit to assimilate back into our communities and pick up a bit pieces of our lives together. So we do that because what I'm trying to explain is I'm looking at the process we follow. When we do that, we try to create awareness. While creating awareness, we make them also as leaders, yes, in that communities also, community leaders to also stand for us, not only as advocates at the community level, but also as people who report back to us when they identify cases of human trafficking. Also, we create awareness and sensitize them and also make them leaders in their various communities. Notwithstanding, I use my story a lot to empower many women because we are vulnerable. Those who have survived it and those who are still in that situation most often don't know that they are victims in some negative aspect because that's the only thing they see as their way of life. So at Survivors Network and myself, we try to use all we can to make sure that we give this woman a way forward. We give these women a way forward to face life back in their whole body, their whole mind, and make them not only to see themselves as survivors, but to see themselves as leaders who need to take chances in their community. As I always say, I always tell them that the pain we have been through, they are so sour like lemon. But let's not forget that out of these lemons that we are facing life, we can make something that can be good for ourselves, which is lemonade. So I always give them all I do. I make sure that I incorporate them in many of the platforms that I belong, that aided me in my growth. For example, we have War Pulse, we have Survival Alliance, When I go to everywhere that women are gathered, two or more, I make sure I introduce those platforms to them, because those are platforms that I read stories of other women, other survivors that are more daring than mine, but they thrive. They overcome it, and now they are thriving. And to tell you the truth, it has yielded great results. The last year, October, I was in a conference by Survivors Alliance, and I was so happy to see that 4 ladies were there, that they got admitted and were funded to that conference thanks to me introducing them, telling them about it. I don't relent in my effort. No matter the space, it must not be in a beautiful hall. I make sure I make that change, that I think it is why my existence rely on it. Thank you.
Thanks. That's beautiful that women aren't just survivors, they're also leaders. They have an opportunity to be leaders in their communities. I think
Yeah.
that's really beautiful. I'm curious, as a woman leading a nonprofit organization, how do you think that women-led initiatives can uniquely address poverty and injustice? Like, do you think there's a difference for organizations and projects that are led by women?
I think there's a great difference. Women are so intentional when they want to do their things.
Mm,
And in an African proverb, will say, if you educate a girl child in a community, behold, you have educated that community. Women-led initiative in Cameroon, there are so many, even from the community level. Some of them also have a microfinance scheme we call Njangi. That's how it's called in Cameroon, like women holding their money together, bringing it together maybe every Sunday to support one woman. When that support comes, you don't know what length that might go to help the family of that woman. A lady would think about the child well-being. A lady would think about the food in the family. The lady would think about the education of the children. They will use all their best to make sure that children are educated. So uplifting other women, women who are empowered, always stand to make sure that poverty is being alleviated in their communities through their various schemes. It must not be great. When we look at common initiative group run by women in the various community, especially when it comes to agriculture, they come together, you see them prepare one day in a week to go and cultivate the farm of, let's say, Francisca. The next week, they go to the farm of Daphne. In that, they cultivate a large land. And when the yields comes out, there's always large supply and there's always food sustainability. I always believe in women being together, because there's that force. There's that force that I don't want to go to the male side, because that would be like I'm being patriarchally discriminative. When women comes together to raise their voices against many ills that they face in the society, like gender-based violence and gender inequality, it speaks a lot, because men will be like, oh, so women know they have this right. And it also pushes their voices right to the government. Standing alone, we will not go further. But when we come together as one, I think the journey of 1,000 miles, we work together, we share ideas, and in a blink of an eye, we've reached our target. So women are always very different when it comes to alleviating poverty in their communities, because they don't believe in their self, but they believe in the growth of everyone, not being discriminative. We always say in Africa that a boy child, it's for the ladies, or the woman that he gets married. He belongs to the woman that he gets married to. And when you give birth to a male child, sometimes often the lady or the mother will always cry, God, please provide me a daughter, because I know this is a person that always remember me.
yep.
So women are so pivotal in our daily lives, in our families, and in our community. Myself, I'm the first child of my family, and I have two siblings which are boys, but a day can't go without my father calling me. And sometimes he call me my Margaritacha, because I cannot qualitate. I don't want to overput myself up there, but I try my best to make sure that my family is well taken care of. And when everybody cries, if I have the means, I try to be there. If I don't have the means, I know how to be consolative. The words I use as a woman, heal the pain most often more than the financial support you can lay to that person. So we are very important. We women, don't joke when you have a girl child. Don't relent to sponsor your girl child, because Africans will say sponsoring a girl child is where somebody will come and marry her off. Don't hear that. That is a no, no, no. Thank you.
I love it. Francisca, one of our organization values at One Day's Wages is mutuality. And you just described it beautifully. This idea that when one person benefits, then your neighbor benefits and their neighbor benefits. And I love how you've shared that women uniquely are especially good at that, at bringing people together and providing mutual aid to each other, coming together to make sure that everyone's needs are met. Really
Yeah.
beautiful. And that's something that we really believe in as a value motivating our work. I'm
Thank
curious.
you so much.
Yeah. I'm curious how people can better support women leaders like you who are making change in their communities.
I'm sorry to say that though this goes true to all organizations led by women and women struggling to enhance growth in their communities, but most often the first and most prominent help that we look at is funding, because you can have the knowledge, you can have all the great ideas in your mind up there, but if you don't put them into action, they don't, we don't realize it, we don't see it, we don't feel it. So we really need funding to carry out most of the activities we do. Another thing is we also need mentorship. We need people to mentor up in this journey, because especially us survivors led, people always often associate survivors as illiterate. I'm sorry to be so straightforward. We are not. The situations we found ourselves in, although some of us were trafficked because we're not educated enough to realize the red flags, we are also humans. We need this support, mentorship to guide us in this journey that we have chosen. And when we are being mentored, we know how rightly to speak out. Also, survivors, or I would say women, we also need the support of grooming. Some of us don't know the voice, we don't know how to speak. We have everything that we know, but to dish it out to our audience, we need all those qualities, as well as we also need a lot of ways to which we can dress up. We need a lot of grooming advice from those who have been there before. We also need psychosocial support. What most of all, though we have a trained psychosocial support staff, but most often my story works out so well, because when you come to our office, you think that the world has fallen on your head. But when I take my time, sit down with you in my office in a private space to recount my story, sometimes you see the person end up to wipe my own tears, that I don't need to talk more further. My problem is not even up to yours. So we need that funding, we need mentorship and guidance, we need provision for psychosocial support, we need opening for collaborations with other NGOs locally or out of the country. But more precisely, I will speak now in the aspect of Survivors Network. If you standing there asking me that, Francisca, what do survivors need now? I will say very straight to your face without missing my word that we need a permanent space, permanent and our own space that will encompass every activity we do, from the office, from the safe home, from the transitional home, and the vocational training center all put together, because I believe as a leader to have close monitoring of all the activities we run, because that gives a perfect result. I'm not being, what can I say, the word just keep out, but we need that. We need that close monitoring, and a permanent space sometimes really help us. Permanent owned space, like having our own house, our own structure, that will really be of great help to the activity we do, and close monitoring and follow up would really be achieved. Thank you.
Thanks. What is a myth or misconception about women in leadership that you wish more people understood?
Many people think that women have a soft spot.
Mm,
This soft spot means like it's something that many of the male folks think that if a woman is a leader, there are many decisions that she would take out of pity.
hmm,
And that makes them hinder us to expand in our leadership,
mm,
to thrive more in a leadership position, or to encourage other women to grow up in leadership position. So that's not it. We have that passion. Women are always emotional, but we should not be misjudged for a weakness because that's just us. That's how we were made. We can't change it. The women are great leaders because they have so much quality that I don't want to go into comparison. Women are good listeners. Women are good communicators because the first thing for any leader is your listening ability and the way you communicate. We all have that. So we should not be judged by our soft spot, our soft heart, being a feminine, maybe the soft look, the smiling always. I personally, I always smile, but sometimes in my smile, I can send you away. I can send you out from my office, but I'm still smiling. So don't be deceived. That's just nature, which we are being misconcepted for. Thank you.
I think the best leaders lead with compassion and the ability to listen really well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I think sometimes people think something like compassion can be a weakness when really it's something like without compassion, without the ability to really listen to the stories of the women who you work with, you wouldn't be able to do as effective work. So I think it's one of the greatest strengths that you can bring as a leader. I feel very
Thank
passionately about
you.
that.
Thank you, Daphne.
And my last question is, what advice would you give to other young women who hope to become leaders like you in their communities?
Hmm. The advice I would love to give to other young women, they are in tons. The first thing is value yourself because
Mm,
yourself is your first supporter. You need to be affirmative. You need to always stand and tell yourself that I can do this. What often I do is I dream when I'm awake. I can sit in this office and I'm thinking, always think of your next step positively and make sure that you work hard because I will say, I don't know if I'm blessed or it's hard work, but most of the things I always anticipate to build survivors network and diversity is that I sit all the time, I think of a next step because human trafficking should not be only about awareness, sensitization campaign. I am involved in a way that my thoughts have never failed me. When I think or I dream when I'm awake, I make sure that I write grants, I seek for the right people that can be there for us. Also, you need to also build relationships. You need to network, you need to have mentors. And when your mentor is there, always run after them. Being a mentee, you should not allow it go the other way around. I cannot be there object to mentor you and then you always sit quiet for me to get to you. Always run behind your mentor. And then another thing is be there on all social media platforms. Be there respectfully and focus. Use your real names because you can one day look at your God sent helper, but they cannot identify you because you have used a nickname. Maybe I will say Francisca Labelle, Beauty Francisca, and there is Daphne looking for Francisca, whereas she is still Francisca, but she can't identify by the name. Be truthful to yourself.
mm,
And then another thing I want to bring is have a vision. Dream. Yes, have a vision because work for their vision, give a time to your vision, and do everything most possible to achieve it at that time frame you've given yourself. Because if you are not directed by the path of your vision, you just walk without any focus. I remember when Survivors Network started in 2015, I was always having a dream to empower women. After I thought it wise that when you empower women, sometimes with where we live in, there's always crisis and communities are always being attacked. A woman that you've given maybe startup resource, One day the village can be attacked when she was doing maybe her puff balls or her cake, and she ran and everything is being scattered. What next can be done? I started thinking that if women are given opportunities to learn a skill, even if their village is attacked, they run away. They will run away with their self and the skill still stays up there. Any community they found safety in, they can either get a job in a tailoring workshop, or maybe if God provides them, they can have a sewing machine to start up even in their own private homes.
Mm.
Also, I also thought it wise. There are women who can run a business. There are women who can sit to acquire a skill, maybe by themselves, or the relationship they have will not allow them to go out there. What if we go into agriculture and make sure that some are able to work on the lands on piece rate, or being employed in the factory for a monthly salaries? There is that vision I always have, and I always work toward it. So those are the principles that are guiding me, and I always love to share with others.
Very
Thank
good
you.
advice. I love how you started with valuing yourself first. So important. Well, Francisca, thank you so much for sharing your own personal story and also your wisdom with us. It was a gift for me to hear, and I know for our One Day's Wages community as well. And I hope you have an amazing Women's Day today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daphne. And I want to say Happy Women's Day to all the women out there. Be yourself. We are strong, and we are stronger and stronger together. Thank you.
Thanks.